Back here inside the PTN studios in time for another edition of Ask Mike. Joined as always by the star of the show. Mike, got a whole lot to get to. We're talking men's basketball, talking football, 3 games to go. What are you looking for from this Razorback football team?
They've got to not make mistakes. Taylor Green declared healthy, so come on, don't make a mistake. Don't cost the team the game with a fumble or an interception, lost 20 yards because you're trying to peel back and outrun somebody, that kind of stuff.
What about the basketball team? More encouraged or maybe a little concerned with what you saw Saturday against Michigan State?
Just concerned about Brazil. I think the others will be fine. He's just got a history of being inconsistent, and let's see. I think they need him to play well most of the year, not be 5 games slumping and then suddenly come on, and then 4 more games slumping and come on.
He's been so cool, so calm, so collected. At moments, he looks like he's absolutely one of their best players. But the foul trouble, kind of a little rush there at the end of the game with a chance to tie it. So, I'm with you. I think he's got to be the captain. He's got to calm things down. Diving into our questions here. First question this week coming from T.L. Slayton, who asked, should I be worried about the basketball Hogs? They're supposed to have top 5 talent, but it sure didn't look like it against Michigan State. It was a close game, but they made the Razorbacks look bad at times.
Good first half. Problem started in the second half, and I think most of it was 2 things. It was Brazil, who either was on the bench, but even when he was in the game, didn't look like he had a lot of energy. And then I think Cal played Carter Knox a lot, and I understand why he did that, because he's coming off an injury, missed a game, probably hadn't practiced a lot, want to get him back up to speed, and he just didn't play well. So he's taking up a lot of time, and he's not doing much when he's out there. But I don't think Cal went into that game with this attitude, we have to win this game. I think he went into it with, they're going to present some challenges to us that will help us down the road. If we win, great, but if we don't, I've got a lot of video that I can use to show them. I think one of the things he was trying to do, and you got young players in here that are experiencing that first time that are good players, but you've got guys that are veterans, but they haven't played together a lot. Ewan and Pringle hadn't played together a lot, and suddenly they got stuck underneath the basket trying to do a lot of things. So now you can use this video and show them this is what happens, because look, this is a very similar atmosphere to what you're going to face at Florida, what you're going to face at Alabama, what you're going to face at Ole Miss, at Georgia. Georgia, I keep telling you this, Georgia, I've watched them a lot. They've got a really, really good team this year, and that's going to be a tough game. So this is kind of like a pre-look at SEC play.
2 things that really jumped out at me. One, want your take on them. Calipari's calling card is tough defense. We are going to be the more physical team. Are you surprised that Michigan State looked like the tougher team?
Well, if you remember, what Izzo said, he said they practice with helmets on. And I think he really emphasized physicality. And I don't know that Cal did that. I think he knew it was going to happen.
He knew it was coming, yeah.
And he wanted to see how his guys would respond. And now what I think is they understand now this is what we're facing. So I think it's going to be interesting. They're going to have some games at home now that they should win, but very quickly they're going to have some neutral site games. And then they get Louisville coming in here. That's not a bad game. I mean, Louisville's a little better this year. So I think it's going to be fun to watch this team at home, and I expect a real bounce back Tuesday night. Another
thing that jumped out at me, Mike, there's a lot of talent on this Arkansas team. And you start with the freshman Malik Thomas, Darius Acuff, even Trevin Brazil as well. These guys can get their shots off. They can get some buckets. When Michigan State really took control of that game in the second half, it looked like it was hard for Arkansas to even get a shot off, let alone to score points.
They're playing really good defense. But look what happened. There was a run. Michigan State got up by 7 with about 6 minutes to go, and I thought, this thing is over. They're going to blow this.
Which way is it going to go?
They're going to blow this thing open, and instead it went the other way. And they got it back down to where they could tie it with a 3, and they had 3 chances and just didn't go.
All right, next question here this week coming from Hogball Hal, who wants to know, was that video of Brazil popping a student with a towel real? There's a lot of AI-generated trash on the internet right now. I don't know what to believe. This was rather interesting to me.
It was real because Brazil ended up issuing an apology. And I was interested in what the apology said and the way it was worded, because you can apologize, but it was an accident. And when I first looked at that video, which was shot by a student reacting to what happened to another student, it's not really clear what happened to me
It is
anyway.
a little tough to tell. Yeah.
Because Brazil is coming off the floor with the other guys. They're walking down a tunnel or an area to a tunnel, which is very similar to Bud Walton on the east side. And he raises his hand up and he's got a towel and he starts doing this.
Kind of like snapped it, yeah.
Yeah, he kind of snapped it and then did that. And he could just be of doing that, but then it went out and popped this guy in the face. What's interesting is the kid that got hit in the face grabs the towel, and it's like a trophy, man. And then one of the other Razorbacks trying to get it back from him, and he's grabbing at it, and here comes Cal, and he's going, come on, guys, get going. Here's the only thing. Since he's admitted pretty much that he did it on purpose, what's going to happen now? There's been no reaction so far from Cal, but sometime on Monday or Tuesday, does he hold him out of the Tuesday game as a punishment? I don't know.
Maybe not start him.
Something like that. Again, I don't like that from this standpoint. I think he was pouting. And when he pouts, he's not good. He's got to learn to stop pouting when things aren't going his way and just get back out there into the contest and turn things around. He just got, look, people have talked about the officiating was bad. It wasn't bad. It was what I typically see in a road game. I've seen it happen to teams that come in here to Bud Walton. The nature of basketball is, because the crowd's right on top of the officials, they're going to be influenced most of the time by the home crowd, a little bit. And that's what I thought this was.
Especially when it's got some life to it like it did Saturday.
Yeah, and I didn't think it was terrible. Was he the victim of maybe some calls or maybe some stuff could have gone the other way? Perhaps. But you can't pout about that. You just have to deal with it. And he's got to learn that lesson. This is his last chance to become a first-round draft pick, which he's got the talent to be. But can he make that happen?
Do you think something like that grabs John Calipari's attention, and he's like, wait a minute, guys, we can't get this frustrated where we're screwing around with the fans here after a game?
I think, but something behind the scenes, he's talking about it, sure.
All right, next question here coming from Jim Cedar, who says, we've not had a go-to big man on the low block since Corliss Williamson 30 years ago. They say a player like Corliss only comes around once every 20 years, but it's been 30 years since Corliss, so we are overdue. Hey, Corliss had about a 10-year career in the NBA, but they've had some good big men. I think that's a little bit extreme there.
Yeah, but if one comes along once in a generation in that state, that's one thing. But that's not where Cal doesn't just recruit Arkansas. Mm-hmm. So do I think he can come up with a Corliss-type player in the next year or two? I do, because he recruits all over the place. You just have to find that guy. And there are guys like Corliss every recruiting class. There's one or two guys like that. You just have to find them and get them on campus.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've had balanced big men. I was surprised, again, kind of my takeaway here, how much tougher, how much more physical Michigan State was in the block.
Right. Look, you understand Cal's strategy. You got three different kind of bigs here. You got a guy that's kind of athletic and can score and can shoot a three and he can block shots. Maybe not the greatest physical defensive player, but he's pretty good around the basket. Then you've got Ewan, who's mainly an offensive player, who also can dish out assists, and then you got Pringle, who's a defensive rebounder and not that much of a scorer. So you can see where Cal's attitude was. You combine all three of those guys, and you got qualities that you might have in one big man. But these are three guys. So you don't have to have a Corliss. You don't have to have somebody that's just dominating. A lot of people are wondering, he got this foreign player, and I keep forgetting his name, but he's 7 foot and he's huge. He weighs 260.
Elmir Jafic.
Yeah, and so at some point, does he play a little bit? Do they put him in and let him be physical?
He can't really move from the early indications.
That's
I mean, I'd be a little extreme there, but the other guys just a little lighter on their feet, so to speak. Another thought I had watching that game, that was a really cool atmosphere. They got the students all the way around the floor, and that creates a tough environment to play. It also puts your player in a position to snap a towel at a fan if he's getting a little bit too close there. Kind of bummed that Arkansas has sort of gone away from that. That they've sold out for the almighty dollar. Hey, these are good seats. We can make some extra bucks
Absolutely bummed about it. In fact, that's what some people claim is wrong with the atmosphere in November and December, even when Cal is now here last year and the first game here, is because you've moved too many people away from the good seats, and then you've given too many people corporate seats, and corporate people tend to go, no, I'll stay at home.
It's cold tonight.
Yeah,
I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to go grab a beer. I'm just going to sit on my hands.
Yeah, this is La Tech or somebody. It's not a team that gets me fired up. And so you don't have an issue. I don't know if the stat was correct, but there was some kind of unbelievable stat being passed around on the internet for Michigan State in terms of November and December games. You know, it was something like they've won like 95% of their games or something, non-conference games, November, December. I think Arkansas needs that kind of atmosphere. How do you create it? Well, for one thing, you gotta play a name opponent, and Arkansas was a name opponent.
Yeah.
Is the atmosphere we saw, would it be that way if they were playing whoever? You know, somebody the average fan up there doesn't think much about? I don't know. I don't think you can judge Razorback fans right now until Louisville's coming in here in December. And that's not a great program, but I think that may be more interesting.
Yeah. You know, and I love the fact that these games are on campus. You know, Madison Square Garden's cool. It's cool to see Arkansas playing a game in Dallas with the alumni base there. But good on Cal, good on Izzo. We're going to play a home and home, and Michigan State's going to be back here next year.
This is going to be good next year, absolutely.
All right, next question here coming from RB Banks, who says, the freshmen showed they were true freshmen at the end. No way both freshmen should have been in at the end of the game. Acuff had 2 bad shots. Thomas had 2 bad plays, all in less than 3 minutes. You know, I do think the moment was a little bit bright for them at times, but it's not a bad thing to have to learn something.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think you do want them in there. They are going to win games for you in the SEC in a situation like that. But you have to put them in those situations as quickly as possible, as soon as possible. If you got them on the bench for the first third of the season while you're trying to break them in, then they're not ready in time. So just get it out of the way. Again, I don't think Cal placed a premium on winning this game. I don't think he wanted to lose it, but if he lost it, I don't think he worries that much about it.
Yeah. Have to wait and see exactly how much these freshmen are going to grow and develop here in the future. But again, I like the fact that they got to learn, they got to experience the bright lights, and basically, as you said, they're 2 of your best players. They have to learn somehow, and they got to learn by playing.
If they're only here a year, what do you want to wait till next year? Come on.
Yeah, they'll be in the NBA next year. They're probably going to be top 20 draft picks. All right, he's Mike Irwin. More coming up here on Ask Mike, getting into the Arkansas football coaching search. James Franklin, we're talking some big bucks. That's next on Ask Mike. Back with more Ask Mike, and here with Mike Irwin, getting right back into some questions. Marty Bird's Proxy says Michigan State had a pretty hostile environment. It likely made enough of a difference in the win. Does BWA still have its fastball in being able to make a big difference in a tight game? We should see on December 3rd when Louisville rolls in. Mike, you were just touching on this a little bit ago.
Yeah, I think Louisville's, it's not a big name or hasn't been. It's been a while since they were good, but they're on the way back up. They were 1-1 in exhibition games. They lost to Kansas by 8 points. That's not bad, and that was a home game. Their other 3 games were blowout wins of Bucknell, South Carolina, Jackson State. But I think they're good enough and will be good enough, and the record will be good enough by the time we get into December that a lot of the fans are going to say, okay, this is Louisville, come on, let's beat these guys. It's going to be interesting to see if they can draw 15,000, 16,000 for that game and how raucous is the crowd going to be. I've been on Razorback fans a little bit from this standpoint. There's this big, because Cal ever since he got here, Kentucky fans have been taking shots at Arkansas, right?
Hate watching.
Yeah. The thing that I have to acknowledge with Kentucky, because I watch them a lot, you don't see empty seats there. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They really fill that place up. And that is the difference between Arkansas right now and them in terms of a fan base. Those people don't pick and choose games. They come to the games. And you get too much pick and choose in November and December, So I would encourage Razorback fans. I was just looking on the internet. There was a guy saying, hey, if you have any tickets, give them to me. I can get them to people. I like that idea. Do not let your tickets go to waste.
How much of that have you felt this year? You know, there's some apathy towards the football program. So it's like, hey, you know, something fresh, something exciting. Calipari is just so charismatic. Let's get out. Let's get to see some basketball games.
Well, we haven't seen enough, just that one game. And it wasn't jammed. You were there. It wasn't jammed.
Yeah, you know, Cincinnati, I felt like they had a pretty good showing. Yeah, but Southern, you know, for a home opener, and I thought there was more excitement. I wouldn't call it disappointing, but I was kind of expecting to see it more banged out.
Right. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday night. There's a couple of games this week. I would just encourage, come on. Kentucky fans are laughing at you guys. They're saying, are you serious? You think you're us? You're not us, because we fill our state. We fill a bigger arena up than you have, and we don't have empty seats.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, and we're going to be shifting gears to football here in a little bit. So just a bigger picture thought here. Sounds like some point in the next 5-6 years, Arkansas is going to reduce seatings, more luxury box, maybe a little bit more intimate in some ways.
Depends on who the AD is.
But so that's my overriding point here. Can they still get, you know, 17,000, 18,000 a game? You know, is it time to maybe have a 5,000 seat model?
I hate that idea, because I've seen Bud Walton when 20,000 were in there. And if you want to give that up, you're out of your mind. Just because you can't have it for every game doesn't mean you don't want it, because there are times when teams come in here and you absolutely want it. I think Auburn came in here a few years ago and were #1 in the nation. That's still one of the most unbelievable games I've ever seen. The place just went bonkers, and you don't want to give that up. I hate that idea. Juracek, you know, this is one of the issues I have with this guy. He's so fixated with how can I raise money. Go out and raise money from boosters. Don't raise money by trying to get more people to come in there and pay big bucks to sit in the arena, and reduce seating and have fancy little club areas where people can sit up there and drink and go, oh boy, I'm up in the club area. I'm not really watching the game, but I'm having a good time. Come on, you don't want that.
I'm with you, and I think basically why we're on the same wavelength. Be careful what you wish for. Yeah, they made a lot of money on that north end zone. All those seats are sold, but you go to those games and it's hot out. Nobody's sitting in those seats.
Nobody out there. It's a bad look.
It would kind of be the same thing, right? If they're going to put in more,
right.
you know, sky boxes and club
People
level.
stay up in those club areas. You can't even see them.
Yeah, but it's still a place to be seen. All right, shifting over to football here. Arkansas getting ready to play LSU coming up on Saturday. It'll be 11:45 a.m. kickoff on the SEC Network. Where do we stand on the search for a football coach? You mentioned smokescreens. Is James Franklin to Arkansas a smokescreen? That's from our guy, Mousetown, who we know and love, Mike.
I don't know. Again, I keep saying this. I was told over a week ago that they already have their guy. They've paid a lot of money to get him, and they've got him. But they have to wait a little while out of respect for Petrino and Arkansas trying to win games. They're not going to announce it now, but would announce it the week of the Missouri game, which is the last week of the season. They didn't tell me who it was, but that's Franklin all over the place. Because anybody else, if it's a coach in the AAC, American Athletic Conference, they're still going to have games. You don't want to announce that before they've still got a game to play. So the only person that makes sense under that scenario is Franklin. But what if that is a smokescreen that I was told? What if what I was told isn't correct to cover up for somebody else? I don't know. This has never happened before, these intentionally set smoke screens. I was told that Juracek is doing some of this. He's telling different people different things because he wants everybody to say different things. So nobody really knows what's going on. You remember the Silverfield thing last week? They were all over it. He's this, he's that. He's getting ready to tell his players that he's gone, which is absurd. No coach would do that when they were still in line at the time to go to the playoffs. You just wouldn't do that. And it looks stupid, but people fell for it. So that kind of stuff is still going on, you know, and you talk to 10 different people in the media, they're going to tell you, yeah, I heard this, I heard that, I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure about that.
Talked to around the program, they're saying that.
Yeah.
You know, everybody thinks they know.
Well, I don't think I know because I know what's going on. And I think you've got to be very careful about anything. See, I keep getting misquoted. I got misquoted in an online article where they said, I said they've already got their guy and it will be announced the week of the Missouri game. I didn't say that. I said I was told that and I didn't know if it was true. That's not me saying that's going to happen. So there's a lot of misinformation out there.
So, and whenever you say, they have their guy, is that just a matter of they've found the money for what this person wants?
Yeah.
Or do you even think it's beyond that it's verbal, it's literally just dotting I's, crossing T's?
Yes, that's what I was told, that they had to come up with a large amount of money.
They created the package, so now the ball is in your court, so to speak.
They had to go to somebody that already had a big offer and top that offer, and then that coach's agent went, okay, this is good. And so it's a verbal agreement. It doesn't mean it can't change, but they think they've got the guy. But I don't know if that's accurate. That's all I'm saying.
In your interpretation to that, it would be a little bit harder to believe if that was a sitting head coach currently.
Absolutely. The only one that makes sense, what I was told, the only coach that makes sense is Franklin, because he doesn't have to play any more games. So it could be announced the week of the Missouri game. It's not going to affect him. And if you start talking about having to come up with a large amount of money, you're not going to have to come up with a large amount of money to get one of these AAC coaches.
Yeah.
You might have to pay more than you want, but you're
not talking $10 million, yeah.
Yeah, you're not talking $12 million is what I heard, $12 million. I mean, when you start talking those numbers and $40 million for NIL money, that's Franklin to me. But the person didn't tell me that's who it was. You just think that's who it's got to be.
Yeah, yesterday's price is not today's price. And whenever I say something like that, I think immediately of a guy like Lane Kiffin. Arkansas could add him for $7-8 million. Lane's going to be getting paid $14 million by whether it's Ole Miss, Florida, whoever it be moving forward here. One thing about James Franklin, I know we spent a lot of time on this. We're going to spend more time on it as well, but just curious to get your thoughts on this. If it is Franklin, are you a little concerned that he's probably going to have better overtures in Arkansas?
You mean in the future or now?
And no, I mean now. Florida. So there's only one Lane Kiffin. So if Florida and LSU are fighting over him, well, what if Lane stays at Ole Miss?
Sure.
And now those two schools turn to James.
Absolutely.
Then
that absolutely could happen. Now, what I was told is that he's not interested in that type of job because. Now, this is not the same person that told me that. This is a person that was telling me what Franklin was looking at. And he said he's not interested in a job where if he wins 10 games one year and then 7 the next year, he's already in job trouble.
Seat.
He doesn't want that. And somebody said, well, then he doesn't care. He doesn't want any pressure on himself. No, you don't understand what I'm saying. There are people that think it's perfectly fine if you're a school where if somebody wins 10 games, you're happy, but if they drop off to 7, then you need to go. Well, you're talking about firing somebody every 2 or 3 years, and there's already been talk that maybe these contracts get restructured at places like LSU, where you say, okay, look, we're not going to give you some big giant buyout or a long-term contract. We're going to give you 3 years, and we're going to pay you a lot, but then we're going to reevaluate you after 3 years, and you're not going to have a huge buyout. You can just be gone. So I don't know if that works. I don't know if they could make that work with somebody because you still got to get somebody to accept that deal. But I was told that Franklin he's just come out of a situation like that where he feels like he was treated unfairly because of all the stuff he accomplished. Then he starts struggling in one particular year for whatever reason. It's like, get out of here, we're firing you. And he would rather go to some place that's a little more understanding that you could have an off year every 3 or 4 years. The guy won about, 80%, 70%?
We were talking about it on the Pig Trail show, nine or more win seasons.
Yeah.
Prior to this year, he had won at least 10 games 3 straight years.
70%.
Arkansas fans are saying, sign me up for that.
That's
if they can
right.
get that here in
They'll say,
favor.
I'll accept that, 70% winning percentage. I mean, that's higher than any Razorback coach.
Of all time, quite frankly. All right, moving things on here. Next question coming from DWR, who says, I am not sold on Franklin. As I see, he almost wins the big games. I really do not believe he is worth $9 or $10 million a year, as being mentioned. We've had enough of almost. I hope we go for Morris before we have to play his teams on a regular basis. The one thing I'll say about Franklin is that really prior to this year, his teams just weren't as good as those Michigan and Ohio State teams that kept on beating him.
That's right. Morris, any of those American Athletic Conference coaches, whichever one you're talking about, that could be a good hire. But you're taking more of a risk, in my opinion, because now they're stepping up into the SEC. Okay, they've done well in that conference. Yeah. What do you do when you come into the SEC where every week you're playing somebody that can
10, 11 games a year that you could lose?
So Morris, I like his background, but I mean, it took him 2 years to build North Texas up. He had 2 so-so first years, and now this year he's 8-1. Okay, are they going to give? If they hired him, are they going to be patient for 2 more years while he builds this thing back up? I don't know. Another thing that I think is in Franklin's favor, if he's the guy, and I don't know that he is, but if he is, the word is that he can bring players with him. He was recruiting players at Penn State that will come here. He can take some players away from there.
He got Saquon Barkley to commit to Vanderbilt. Not a lot of people remember that. Before he went to Penn, he had Saquon Barkley, the best running back in the NFL. He was going to go to Vanderbilt.
Okay, so see, I think there's a feeling, yeah, he can give you more of an instant turnaround, whereas a Morris or a Silverfield or Golish, those guys it might take them 2 or 3 years.
All right, time for a break here on Ask Mike. Got a whole lot more to get to with Mike Irwin. It's all coming your way after a quick timeout. Back here on Ask Mike with Mike Irwin. The football season really winding down. Just 3 games to go, and they are some tough ones. First up, we get LSU. Then they're on the road at Texas. Big rivalry game. Hopefully it still means something to Arkansas. Then they finish up at home with Missouri here in Fayetteville. Getting back into our questions here from Fat Hogs, who says, all the talk about what coach, what type of coach, how much we should pay a coach, it drives me a little crazy. Isn't our biggest problem the talent on the field? O-line stinks. The defense is terrible. Think NIL money. I agree with most of that. The O-line, though, is pretty good. They've been more than capable this year, and Fernando Carmona, shout out to him, he's going to play in the NFL.
Well, the truth is it takes both. Yes, you need better players. If you're going to turn this program around, you need better players, but you also have to be able to coach them. So you got to have a good staff. It's not like you go out and get a bunch of new players and everybody starts winning.
Yeah.
We're going to see what happens to Texas Tech because they spent more money than anybody, and they're in a good position.
They look good. That's a tough team with an elite defense.
Look good, but what happens when they start playing teams outside the Big 12? When they get into the playoffs, and they're probably going to get a bye, but I don't see them getting past the second round because I don't think they're prepared to play the other kind of teams they're going to face. I don't know that their coaching is all that good. They got great players. Let's see what their coaching is like. So I think it takes both.
Did you watch that game on Saturday?
Yeah,
Texas Tech BYU? Doesn't that look like an SEC team? You know, defense first, big, tough, fast.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they would win the SEC. That's not my point. But that looks like a team that can hang in the SEC.
Yeah, and they've got a great atmosphere, and they've renovated their stadium for about the 14th time, and and they've got people coming out of the tunnel, and everybody's going bonkers all over the place. I mean, I grew up out there. My sister is a huge Texas Tech fan. She likes Arkansas, but she likes Texas Tech better. And she doesn't mind a bit that they spent $40 million on these players. Get some more players. Spend more money. Whereas I've got a buddy that grew up out there, and he hates it. He doesn't even like them anymore because he says, who cares? None of these guys are from the Lubbock area.
Yeah, they're not committed.
A lot of them aren't even from
just
Texas.
mercenaries.
Mercenaries. I don't care about them. So it's just kind of a microcosm. Different people think different things about buying players.
You know, we've talked about Joey McGuire on the show quite a bit. And, hey, does he get enough credit? Is he really a good coach? Is it the roster? I've kind of come around to this idea that it's not as simple as just throw a whole bunch of money at kids. Because if you don't have the right guy in control of your program, what do you really have?
That's right. It's absolutely. You still got to coach these guys. And you can spend all kinds of money and flop.
Yeah.
A&M has done that for years. They finally spent the money, but they have the right coach. They had the money and the players and didn't have the right coach, and they underachieved.
And then they had to pay that guy $75 million to go away. Arkansas got it good. Sam Pittman around $7 million, whatever it was.
That was a bargain.
They skated easy compared to Penn State, LSU. And then really the Penn State situation, LSU looked at that and said, wait a minute, they're paying him. We could pay that. They're paying him $50 million to go away. We're gonna come up with that kind of money to pay Brian Kelly to get out of here.
Yeah.
Next question here coming from Edward Clutch, who wants to know what exactly happened with the powers that be up on the Hill after Petrino got fired in 2012. Winning became an afterthought. We are rewarding bad to mediocre football with contract extensions and celebrating lower tier bowls. No one cares about the Directors' Cup. It's hard to believe that now, all of a sudden, they want things to improve. We fans are frustrated and we're tired.
I think what he's getting at is this word that's filtering out that finally they're going to spend a lot of money and get good players. He's going, well, why haven't you done that before? And how did we get to this point? the perception is you've had two bad ADs back to back in terms of hiring coaches. Well, not necessarily. Jeff Long, for instance, he hired Petrino. Don't forget that. He did hire Petrino.
And
Now,
Brett Bielema was a good hire.
and
Even
Bielema
though
was a
it
good-
didn't
that's
work
right.
out, that was a good hire.
who would say that was a bad hire? He'd won back-to-back Big Ten titles, been to 2 Rose Bowls. Why would you think that's a bad hire? So it's not like Long hired bad coaches. I don't think you can attack him on that basis. He changed a lot of the traditions, made a lot of the boosters mad, but that was an entirely separate issue. Yurchek, on the other hand, when he was hired, he ends up. We got to mention this. He had Lane Kiffin. He had him on the phone. They were talking. He had a deal with him, and then Jimmy Sexton got involved, and he decided to back away. Now that doesn't look like so smart like it did before. What if you paid a little more money? What if you're willing to get in a bidding war with Ole Miss and you got him? You see where we're headed here. So all of a sudden, you go over here and you don't get any interest from other people, and you want to go with Barry Lunny Jr., who's never even been a head coach, and the board says, no, you can't do that. So he goes with Pittman, who hadn't been a head coach except on a junior college level. And then he sticks with him for 5.5 seasons, and now we are where we are after 5.5 years. And where we are, let this sink in, because this has never happened before. Right now, Arkansas is dead last
Since 2012.
in the bottom of the SEC. I mean, they're not tied with anybody.
Fewest wins since 2012. Dead last.
Dead last. And I'm still hopeful they can win a game or two at the end and get out of that spot. But that's where we are, and that's what's so frustrating to some of these fans. So now what they're saying is, okay, what's going on here? Is it Yurchek suddenly deciding, waking up and going, hey, I better raise some money? Or has some other people stepped in and said, well, okay, stand over here, young man, because you're not doing it right. We're going to raise the money, and then we'll let you continue to run the show. And I've had people tell me, well, if they raise the money and get the coach in here, why do you want him to continue to run this thing? Because he's messed up all kinds of other things, like the traditions that have just vanished. I mean, traditions at Bud Walton, traditions at Baum Walker. There's all kinds of things that
Students getting off the court, Chuck Barrett calling games from the corner, all of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know this was him, but with the news that Mike Nail passed away, I'm thinking about Jean Nail. She used to be what was called the spirit director, but she mainly choreographed the Razorback dance team. These were the girls that went out there and danced at halftime, and it was tremendous entertainment. And where is that now? What happened to all that? Now they got a bunch of a DJ out there playing DJ music. What is that? That is somebody coming in and saying, we don't like what you're doing here. I came in here from the outside. I don't like that. We're going to do this. And that's what a lot of people are mad about.
Do you have a thought on this? Is the idea that we got to find the money, a lot more urgency, is some of that fear that, yes, we've alienated our fan base, but even more so than that, you know, college football, college sports are changing. If we continue to lose, and it does get consolidated down to 40, 50, 60 teams, we could be left out.
We could be left out, and what I was told was that Arkansas gained a major booster in the last few weeks because somebody approached this guy and said, hey, you got a big interest in a school over there on campus. And I'm not going to say, but if you got some sense, you know who I'm talking about. And that school could go downhill if enrollment starts dropping because I got in an argument with a guy years ago about what Arkansas would be like if it didn't have its athletic programs. And I told him, you think all those kids are going to come up here from Little Rock if they don't have a reason to come up? They're not just coming up here for academics.
They want a full college experience.
They want that college experience. Everybody wants to go off to college and support their team in a big stadium and all this stuff and be excited and go to a basketball game and be in the arena and all that stuff. If you don't have that, just stay at home, go to a junior college or whatever. So it is important, and you've got to spend the money, and it does affect academics.
Yes, and spending money to make money. Look, you know, Ole Miss did it. Vanderbilt, look what they've done to their stadium. Feels like they're really going to commit to Clark Lee. Indiana, a dog in college football. And in the Big Ten, Kurt Cignetti, all of a sudden one of the highest paid coaches in the country. They're 9-0, going to go to a big bowl game, going to be in the playoff.
I was just reading an article. Northwestern Now, this is not a football power. That's where my grandfather went to law school, Northwestern.
You got some smart genetics there. That's one of the best schools in the world, Mike.
It is, but it's not a football school. You know what they're just finishing up?
A new stadium renovation.
$800 million on a 45,000 seat stadium. Now, why does a 45,000 seat stadium cost $800 million? Because they put science into it, and they've cantilevered this stuff to where now you're not way back if you're up in the upper deck. You're looking over and you're right down on top of this thing, and it's done for maximum noise, maximum effectiveness. They got maximum luxury seating for all this stuff, and they're making it a nice environment for fans, and they're willing to spend that kind of money.
You say Chicago's cold, man. You got to get people out there. Got to get them warm. You got to make some noise. A little bit more intimate there, right on Lake Michigan thing. Yeah, there you go. Northwestern's got that kind of money. Places like Northwestern, Vanderbilt, some of these high, USC, Duke, Notre Dame. Maybe they could start becoming the big power players. They got a lot of financial backing behind them. Next question here, coming from WV Hog fan, who says, Wally Hall had an interesting article on Sunday. Who is actually in control in making the major decisions in the athletic department right now? Look, it's never as simple as, hey, he's the athletic director. He's in charge. He still has a boss to answer to, and even if he doesn't necessarily have a boss, there's still funding principles in place that he has to answer to.
Well, that article was a very long article, and it covered a lot of ground. And what he mentioned was he was trying to sort of explain what has happened, what was going on when Frank was the athletic director, and did things change as they started hiring all these coaches, Jeff Long and then Hunter Yurachek. And it was Long that ended up hiring a lot of coaches, and he basically said somewhere along the way, the chancellor at the time stepped in and said, wait a minute, I'm not going to just let you do these contracts. I'm going to have to sign off on this money you're spending. So what he was suggesting is that the athletic director, going back a ways, has had more people involved now in what he's doing. They don't just, unlike Frank could pretty much do what he wanted. He got put in check a few times, but they trusted him to the point where they didn't manage him a lot. With these new ADs and the two that we've had since then, he's basically saying that they get scrutinized more. What he's suggesting, I think, but you have to read some things into this article. I think what he's saying is that Hunter Yurachek is not totally in charge of this job search. He may be involved, but he's not totally in charge of it.
He's the point of contact.
Yeah, and so what's going to happen from this point on? And what I would say in answer to that question is, yes, right now Hunter Yurachek is running the athletic department day to day. I don't know that he's totally the point man on this job search. He's working with other people. And what happens after that, I don't know, because you hear different things from different people. They could hire James Franklin and give him a bunch of money, and Yurachek could still be the AD, or right after they hire him, they could announce a new AD. I don't know.
Hard to believe that they're going to let the guy get up there for the press conference and then let him go. But hey, we just had a governor that got an athletic director fired.
Right.
There's no school president. There's no athletic director. There's no football coach. So LSU truly is the wild, wild west. All right, not done just yet on Ask Mike. Have to take a quick time out. We will be right back. Back here on Ask Mike, and a lot of talk really all fall long about the Arkansas football coaching search, but there still are games to be played on the field. Most notably this weekend, Arkansas heading to LSU, battle for the old golden boot. Next question here coming from R3D Boar, who says the Arkansas defense ranks 123rd. Do you think any current SEC head coach or candidate could win in the SEC with a defense that ranked 123rd out of 136 teams, given the Arkansas schedule? The easy answer there is no, because Arkansas has got one of the best offenses in the country, and they're still not winning games.
Yeah, the defense has improved, but it hasn't improved enough. The offense has been a little inconsistent lately, but no. And so the implication is you can't just hire somebody that is offensive oriented. Whoever the next coach is has to be mindful of defense. And I think that went into the negotiations, whoever they're talking to. I think they want to be assured that this, if it's Franklin, for instance, I mean, he's a defensive guy. I mean, and he's got a good defensive coordinator. That's his mindset. But he has a reputation of putting good offenses on the field too. And I think that's what you want, somebody like that. So check his background, whoever the coach is. He can be an offensive-minded, let's say Morris if it were him, and I'm just using him as an example. Well, he's a receivers and quarterbacks type guy. He's an offensive coordinator type. But he's had pretty good defenses too, and that's what you would want to check on, to see and talk to the guy and find out if he really understands the importance. That was Sam Pittman's mistake. I remember in the offseason what he was talking about, and he said, we don't really need that much on defense. If we get a few key players, we'll be fine. Well, he's wrong about that.
Dead wrong.
Totally wrong.
Quincy Rhodes, I think, is one of the sack leaders in the SEC, and what's really that got in your defense?
Yeah. So he just was wrong in his evaluation of that situation, and he ended up giving Petrino a lot of stuff, and the defense didn't get much, and you saw the result of that.
Yeah. Now, when you're talking about Franklin here, this is going to be so expensive for the university if they're going to really bring in a big-time name. You know, you're talking $11, $12 million a year for James Franklin. That right. Seems reasonable. Then you're talking about another $8, $9 million in staff. So call it $20 million. You got rev share. That football, basketball, you know, eating up. So that, you know, now you're up to $40 million in money you got to allocate. And if you think that NIL is going away and that it's becoming this independent thing and that it's really going to be on the up and it's going to be clean, you're out of your mind. These schools are going to be finding loopholes. They're still going to be paying the players. So you're talking about an annual football budget of around $50 million to get this right if it's a James Franklin type guy. Do you believe Arkansas is prepared to go there?
I don't know. The one source told me that they'd already committed to it. But what if he's wrong? You know, I mean, I'm not in the negotiations here. I would just tell you that it sounds logical that somebody finally, they all got together and went, look, because part of the problem has been boosters all want their own guy. So I'll give the money if I get my guy, but if you don't get my guy, I'm not giving you anything.
We had the FOIA request years ago when they hired Bielema. John Tyson loved Butch Davis, was really, really championing for Butch
Absolutely.
Davis.
So what I was told was they finally got together and agreed, we're going to have to stop this, and we're going to have to be unified. Now, again, this could be wrong, but this is what I was told, and that's why they've come up with this money that they need, which sounds crazy. But on the other hand, it matches what Yurachek said when he was talking about Petrino when they made that change. He said, we have not given Sam Pittman what he needs, but now we will give the next coach what he needs. I mean, that's what I've been told they're doing.
I love speculation. I love hypotheticals. Mike, I'm going to give you a chance to maybe even be angry here. Why has Arkansas done things on the cheap? Sam Pittman, one of the lowest paid coaches in the SEC, one of the lowest paid NIL operations, if not the lowest paid in the SEC. And we see the optics behind the scenes with some things with how the media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why do they feel like they can get by doing less?
I think it started when you stopped winning the number of games that they were winning. I mean, they look at Petrino. They were riding
21
high.
wins in 2 years.
They were riding high. Okay, so Bielema comes in here and everyone thinks, okay, boy, he's going to win. Well, that first year his quarterback got hurt and he didn't have a backup quarterback and they were terrible. But then the next year they came back and he won that game down in Houston.
Texas,
we were all down there and he got all excited and they came back the next year and improved even a little more and won the Liberty Bowl. And then it just went downhill from there. And when you're not winning, money starts to become an issue anyway. You're not getting the money out of your season tickets that you normally would. And you can't charge as much because you're not winning. And then the boosters, again, they kind of started fighting with each other. And I'm not going to give money for this guy. And so it all just evolved over a period of 5, 6, 7 years into this cheap thing that was going on. And I think somebody finally, it was like a slap in the face and went, hey, you know what's fixing to happen to this school? Do you understand where they're at right now, this once proud Razorback program? You know, the program that won a national championship in 64 and almost won another one in 65 and then almost won another one in 69. That program is now dead last in the SEC. What are you talking about here? Let's wake up. That's what I'm told happened.
Hopefully they have awoken. Hopefully. I think there's a lot of potential here. But, you know, right now, look, you got to call it what it is. This is a bottom-tier job in the SEC. You know, you are down there with Mississippi State, Kentucky, Arkansas. That's just I know you hate it. You hate to hear it.
Yeah.
But the results do not lie. Fewest wins in the SEC since 2012. So we could talk about Prudential and hope and the money that they're finding, but they got to put it to action here. Just Win asks, will we finally get over the hump by beating an LSU team that also has an interim head coach? What is the key to beating those Cajuns? Frank Wilson, the guy right now in charge after Brian Kelly let go. Not sure if you saw this. They're trying to negotiate with Brian Kelly. He's not having it. He shot down all the requests to try and lower or extend his buyout.
To me, it was a key is what was announced today by Bobby Petrino, or announced on Monday, which is Taylon Green is healthy. In fact, he's very healthy. He had a week off, and he said he's been really working out even in the off week. Said he worked out, which would be Monday morning. Said he's fine. And I think he's the key. And he's the key in that he has to stop making mistakes and start making smarter decisions. Stop turning your back on the defense and trying to peel around and outrun them on the corners, because they figured that out. That's just where you're getting your turnovers. That's where you're getting your lost yardage sacks. That's where you're hurting this team. Move up in the pocket. Look for a receiver very quickly. If it's not there, go ahead and go forward and try to gain 3 or 4 yards. It's much better to be 2nd and 6 than it is to be 2nd and 14. So don't do that. And I think if he can play a relatively mistake-free game, and I'm not just talking about fumbles, I'm talking about making the right decisions, doing a read when you're going to run the ball. And Arkansas is 2nd in the SEC in rushing. Put that ball in the running back's stomach and read what you're looking at. And if you think they're going to go and hit him here and you're going there, then you take it out and go there. If you think it's the other way around, then do it the other way around, but you got to read it correctly. You're not going to do it all the time, but he's making mistakes and making wrong reads. I think he's overlooking receivers that are open. Focus. They can win if he does that. LSU's middle of the pack defensively in the SEC. They can be had, but you've got to do a good, consistent job offensively.
You love your Arkansas history. You love guys who are from Arkansas. Who's more feast or famine as an Arkansas quarterback, Taylon Green or Matt Jones? Because both of them, it seems like, the ceiling, the exceptional plays, man, they were so good, but the mistakes when they were made, they really hurt the team.
No, Matt's head and shoulders above Taylon Green, because Taylon Green gets affected. You can see him be affected by certain situations. Matt Jones's only problem was there were times when he just seemed to not care. And I've never figured that out. Somebody told me that knows him one time that he was basically a basketball player that was playing football. It wasn't his favorite sport. But if he got real excited, if you put a challenge in front of him, you couldn't beat him if you got him in those overtime games. And he loved that. But Matt Jones was so loose that he rarely did stupid things. Sometimes he just didn't have the effort. But Taylon Green reminds me a little bit of Trevin Brazile. He can be knocked off center very easily, and then all of a sudden everything goes backwards for him.
Yeah, nature of the position, right? Quarterbacks don't like getting hit. I heard a football coach say this one time. You hit the quarterback, the whole team feels it. And to some extent, I have seen that at times. When Taylon struggled, naturally, the whole team kind of comes down with him. Winding things down here on Ask Mike. Next question here coming from Rob S. 4516, who asks, what is it you see that makes you say that the defense has improved somewhat since Coach Bobby Petrino took over? Is it the improvement due to replacing the coaches, different schemes, getting more out of the players? Look, it's been marginal improvement, but I would say I have to be objective here. It seems like they have improved.
It's all of those things. I think Petrino recognized who needed to be there to make these changes. Then they simplified the defense, which led to fewer mistakes. But the big issue is people have short memories. Go back to that Memphis game. Go back to that play where Memphis sent in their backup quarterback and the whole defensive line couldn't stop that guy. They weren't getting any effort, and they're not doing that now. All you have to go do is go back last week. They lost the game or 2 weeks ago, they lost the game on penalties. But especially in the first half, that run defense was fierce. They've changed, and I think they came up with a pick in that game. They're starting to play a little pass defense now. So the defense has improved. They're still making mistakes, but the defense has improved. What's hurt this team is the offensive inconsistency. They've got to score in all quarters. You can't have these droughts where they're just three and out, turning the ball over.
This is one of the worst offenses they're going to see all year long. I'd say the 3 worst offenses in the SEC: LSU, Auburn, who they've already seen, who did. Auburn still got Arkansas pretty good. They did put
their
some points on.
quarterback is way down there.
So LSU, Kentucky, and Auburn. What are you thinking? Does Arkansas get one here? I think LSU is going to get the interim coach bump from Frank Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep saying this. I'm not going to predict them to win until they win. as long as they keep losing, I'm going to say they're going to keep losing. They'll keep finding a way to lose, and I hope I'm wrong about this game.
All right, final question of the week here coming from J.B. Carroll, who wants to know, do you have any memories of Mike Nail you would like to share?
You know, Mike grew up in Fayetteville. Went to Fayetteville High, went to the University of Arkansas. He worked at the CBS station, KFSM here, and then I think he went to Little Rock and worked in their Hot Springs Bureau at KATV. All of that happened before I got here. When I got here, he was in Oklahoma City and a play-by-play announcer for the, I think they were called the 49ers, the minor league baseball team. So I didn't know him when I first got here. He came back sometime in the late 70s. The first time I can remember being around him was the old press tour. And I could tell you a million stories about it. Anytime you get a bunch of media people out and they're going to each of these schools as a part of a tour with a bus and all these guys, I mean, we did our job during the day, but at night, guys are going around having a good time. Well, yeah. Where I worked, I had to have a van because we had all kinds of TV equipment we had to do our job, and we couldn't put that on a bus. So I got a van, and I'm at the Tidelands Hotel, and it's in a bad part of Houston. And it's midnight, and Bill Morgan, who was kind of running the tour, he was kind of the SID of the Southwest Conference, he knocks on my door. He's pounding on the door. He said, look, a bunch of these guys went down to this, they went down to this kind of bar or tavern or something. It's about 1.5 miles from here. And he said they didn't realize they were going to kick them out at midnight. And he said they just told them to get out. And he said they pushed them outside. And he said all of a sudden they realize they're in a bad neighborhood and they don't want to walk all the way back to the hotel. So one of the guys called him on a payphone and said, can you send somebody out here to get us because we've called a cab and they won't come because of where we are. So he says, you got this van, you got to help me. So I go, okay, well, it takes me a while to get dressed and get ready to go. So we're going down this 4-lane street, and we come up on a bridge, and as we kind of come up to the top of the bridge, I see these heads bopping up and down. I'm like, what is that? You get up on top of it, and I can see these guys, and they're running. There's several of them, and they're running toward us, and then back behind them, about 100 yards behind them, is these guys chasing them. I'm going, oh my goodness. So Morgan goes, turn this thing sideways. So I turn it around sideways on the bridge. Thankfully, there's no traffic coming. And he opens that side door, and he's just motioning, come on in,
it's
come
like
on.
a movie.
So they're running toward this van, and they're jumping into it. They don't stop and climb in. They're just jumping through because they're being chased. Here comes Nail, and he's a big guy, and I'm going, he's going to hurt himself if he jumps in there like that. But he did, and he didn't hurt himself. So we peel around and take off, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and those guys were probably 15 yards behind us when we took off. So we dodged a bullet there. And all I will say is, in all the things that we did, the press tour, when you go off on bowl games, NCAA basketball venues, media tends to stay in a media hotel.
Sure.
And guys get together and do things. Now, we didn't break the law or anything, but there were just a lot
different time too, yeah,
there
sure.
were just a lot of things that happened, so I could tell you a million stories. The point is, I was around him for all those years, probably 45 years or so. He worked at both this station
Another
and he
station
worked
in the market,
and
yeah.
he worked at the ABC station. He started doing Razorback basketball games. Did those games for 30-something years, 29 years or whatever. Stopped doing those games and retired from that in 2012 or 2011. And then I didn't see him for a while, except that he would come to Razorback basketball games from time to time, and then I didn't see him much after that. So 3 years ago, I got a call from Clay Henry, and he said, you've been selected to be a member of the Arkansas Sports Writers, Sportscasters Hall of Fame. We're going to have a ceremony at Mermaids in Fayetteville, and he said, your family has a table, so you can bring your wife and kids and whoever, and there'll be 3 other people inducted. So I'm going, okay. So I show up, and there's Nail with his wife, Jean, and I think they have a daughter that might have been there. And then I see Chris Mortensen over there, and then here's Bob Holt. And we're all in there together, and we all got inducted, and we made speeches, and then people talked about us, and then after it was over, we all sat around and we talked, and there's a picture that you can go on the internet and see it. I just looked at it a while ago, and we're all standing there when it's over, and they took a picture of all of us, and we're all smiling. I'm the only one left alive from that group, and that was 3 years ago.
Sad.
Mortensen died of cancer. Bob Holt died just almost a year ago from a heart attack while covering the Arkansas-Missouri football game, and then Mike passed away on Saturday night. And you say to yourself, if I had realized when I walked out of there that day that in just a short period of time they would all be gone, I would have just freaked out.
Yeah, you would embrace the moment a little bit more.
The lesson you learn from that is people that you've known for a long time and respect and enjoyed being around, don't treat that like it's just something ordinary, because it's something special. And when it's gone, that's when you realize it. It's like there's an empty place there.
Story time with Mike Irwin, and as he mentioned, the best stories are the ones you don't see on the air. Hey, Mike Nail, he's Mount Rushmore kind of guy here in Northwest Arkansas, as are you. Only place to see Mike Irwin right here in the Pig Trail Nation. That's it for this week's Ask Mike.